Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mike Bara Live. I'm your host, Mike Bara. We got a special show today. We have a very special guest. John DeSouza is going to be joining us in a few minutes and talking about everything to do with what's going on with the election, the FBI. He's a former FBI agent. If you don't know who he is, he's a great friend. He's a great guy. And we love him to death, and you're absolutely going to love having him on the show. He's a terrific guy. I just wanted to make a couple comments. I'm just going to tell you I'm not going to get involved in any high school conflicts, high school back and forth with immature people. It's just simply not going to happen. So unless there is a great offense put out there in the next couple of days, I'm simply not going to be talking about any of those things. So this is where we are now. I'm going to give you a quick news update. There is a lot of breaking news, and I want to make sure that we get, dang it. Okay, let's try it again. We get you guys all up to date on this stuff. First of all, the first breaking news, this just came over the wire, is that Donald Trump is now projected to win the state of North Carolina. Of course, if you were watching the show on election night, you know for a fact that Donald Trump already did win the state of North Carolina quite a while ago. But according to Decision Desk HQ, Trump has now won North Carolina. Now, this is one of the crucial states that he does need to move forward and claim victory in the Electoral College. And the fact that a mainstream media outlet, which, as we all know, is stacked 99-1 against Donald Trump, has called this, means that he's clearly won it. And I think if and when all the votes in North Carolina are counted and audited correctly, you're going to find that he won it by a considerably greater margin than is being presented, as is going to happen in several other states. Now, another breaking news. Last night, Real Clear Politics, which is, again, a left-leaning poll coalition compilation website. They compile all the polls and try to give you an idea of what's going to happen politically. Of course, the polls were completely wrong in this election. Last night, very mysteriously, suddenly moved Pennsylvania from the Biden column into the too close to call category. Now, it's really interesting about the timing of this because it happened right after some other events. But what that means is that Joe Biden nor Donald Trump have the 270 electoral votes projected to win the presidency. And remember, everything the news media is telling you now is simply projections. No states have certified their ballots at this point. So that leaves, according to Real Clear Politics, Biden and Harris at 259, Trump at 214. Of course, Trump will then get North Carolina's electoral votes when that flips in this scenario. So he's up to 232 or 234, something like that. Of course, this is not the real state of the election. This is not what really happened. This is just in the mainstream media projection category. But it is significant because now the mainstream media is starting to come on board with the fact that this election is not only not over, but that Donald Trump might win it. Now, we all know he's going to win it. So this is their projection now. I'm going to just tell you right now, Michigan and Wisconsin are going to be pulled. I think that there's a really strong chance that Nevada and New Mexico and even Minnesota are going to fall for Trump. Maine, New Hampshire, all these states are going to be in dispute. And people in Virginia are basically saying there's no way that Joe Biden won Virginia, that Donald Trump won it. So I think things are going to get really interesting. They're still not calling Alaska for some reason, although Trump clearly has won it. So this is kind of the state of the race, according to Real Clear Politics, who are, by the way, wrong. But the interesting thing, and what's most important, is that they have not, right now, they do not have Biden with enough electoral college votes to win. Now, CNN is a different story, but CNN did something very, very interesting yesterday. They moved Arizona out of the Biden column into the too close to call column. And when Pennsylvania falls, just like it did with Real Clear Politics, guess what? They're going to be in agreement with each other. So even CNN now is starting to show that as the results come in, even with the fake results included, that Donald Trump is moving to victory. So this is really interesting. Another development last night, Pennsylvania House GOP members tomorrow will call for a legislative-led audit of the 2020 election. That's a rectal exam of the election, and demand election results not be certified nor electors seated until the audit is complete, per a news release. Say goodbye to Pennsylvania. What that means is Pennsylvania is then going to flip into the Trump column. And by the way, the legislature in Pennsylvania is Republican. There's a good quote from Mike Paul yesterday. So let me get this straight. Glitches in Arizona, Nevada, California, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, but none in the red-controlled states of Ohio or Florida, and all the glitches favor Joe Biden. Have I forgotten anyone? This is a huge red wave. Take shelter, soy boys, and brace for impact. This is absolutely correct. Every software glitch, and software does not glitch. Software does what it is programmed to do. Is going to flip everything for Donald Trump. Now, there was a Michigan county yesterday that flipped from Biden to Trump after the glitch was fixed, and this is going to continue in Michigan. Donald Trump, there was massive turnout for Donald Trump in the blue districts, the blue counties. This thing is all going to flip to him before it's all over. So that's a really interesting update. And then last night, Chuck Calesto reported that voting machines used in Michigan's Wayne County, again, controlled by Democrats, appeared to have been connected to the internet, which is a no-no, on November the 3rd at 11 p.m. Eastern, according to a sworn affidavit signed by a poll watcher. These are people that are cooperating with Rudy Giuliani in the investigations. And it has been reported, although I cannot confirm, that this is exactly what happened when there was actually a patch downloaded. An actual patch that was downloaded. Whoops, sorry. For a reversal of 19,032 votes, which removed the lead from Joe Biden and Donald Trump. It's now down to less than 1,000, and more fraud is going to be found in Wisconsin. So Wisconsin's going to flip. Mick Mulvaney, the president's chief of staff, said that since the media has already picked the next president, I doubt anyone cares that the president is now within 14,746 votes in Arizona. The current percentage, if there are 127,000 ballots still out, is that he wins Arizona. And again, the betting markets are now shifting. 24 hours ago, Trump was 27-1 to win. 12 hours ago, he was 16-1. Now he's at 12-1, basically. And I think it might have gone even more toward him in recent times. So, so then we've got the state of the race as it stands now. We've got a recount in Wisconsin, which is going to show Biden did not win. We've got voting glitches in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. Trump is going to win Georgia. Trump has won North Carolina. He's going to flip Pennsylvania. He's going to flip Arizona. And there's a lot of fraud in Nevada that's been exposed. So it's really interesting because when Michigan was flipped, came right after this timeline posted by Emerald Robinson. Bill Barr met with the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, at 2:30 p.m. At 3:23, Mitch McConnell defended Donald Trump in a Senate speech, saying he needs to go all the way. At 7 p.m., Barr authorized the Department of Justice to investigate election fraud. And at 8 p.m., Obama lackey Richard Pilger, this is the guy who helped Lois Lerner use the IRS to go after Republicans, conservatives, and news people, resigns from his DOJ election crimes job. Maybe the GOP decided to fight. There's other stories out there, other Michigan stories. A Detroit poll watcher at 4:30 a.m. on November 4th said tens of thousands of ballots were delivered from out of state to the Detroit counting center. And unlike the other ballots, these boxes were brought in from the rear of the room. I specifically noticed every ballot I observed was cast for Joe Biden. That's how you determine rear of the room. I heard other challengers say several vehicles with out-of-state license plates pulled up to the TCF Center a little before 4:30 and unloaded the boxes of ballots. The same procedure was performed on the ballots that arrived at approximately 4:30 a.m., but I specifically noticed, he's talking about the county procedure, that every ballot I observed was cast for Joe Biden. Folks, this is a sworn affidavit. It's part of the prosecution case against the Joe Biden and the Democrats. And here's a little graph. We've been looking at graphs, and you are here because what's about to happen is Biden's lead is about to evaporate and collapse. And if they push too hard, if they keep pushing, if the Democrats push back, what's going to happen, folks, is that the forensic audits are going to reveal the fraud on a massive, massive, massive scale. So I did talk to one of my sources who went to Arizona, and he had some meetings with some authorities, including a federal judge. And he told me that not only has there been a software glitch that's been caught, not only has there been the count has gotten super tight in Arizona, but there are at least 15,000 dead people who voted in Arizona. That will put Donald Trump into the lead in Arizona. So pretty interesting stuff. Okay, now to comment on all this, my guest today is a wonderful guy, a friend of mine, John DeSouza, a man I absolutely adore, even though we have a few small things we disagree about. He's a former FBI agent. He's a stud. He's a G-man, but he calls himself the X-Man. I'd like you guys all to welcome in John DeSouza. John, how are you doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great, Mike. I'm doing great. I'm so happy to finally be with you here on your show. It's amazing stuff. And I'm just tickled to hear all the great updates that you had on the election and everything that's really going on. It's amazing stuff, very important. And I'm just
and it really is it really is a situation. It's very fluid, and I don't know. I just kind of want to get your perspective as an FBI agent. By the way, I just posted the link to John's books. It's a little complicated, but that's it. It might be johntanbooks.com. Yeah, it's a long. So you're gonna have to copy it and paste it into your browser. But that's John's book site, so where you can get his wonderful creations. So I want to get your perspective on all this. You were in the FBI. You may not have been in the election fraud division, if there even was one. But what's your perspective on the likelihood that there has been massive voter fraud in this election?
Well, my immediate perspective is that I've been hearing from my sources at the FBI that we have.
It's okay, bud. You look perfectly handsome the way you are. Don't worry about it.
I was just trying to straighten it out on top there. That we have back at the FBI. I was told the TDYs are flying on election fraud. The TDYs are flying. You may know that means temporary duty assignments. That means that there are investigators, FBI investigators, street level investigators who are being moved around and being sent to do these investigations in the field. And these are guys who are very good at it, guys and men and women who are very good at this sort of thing, and they are unconnected to the leadership. And I have been told that there is a rumor that these people working on the election commission, the election fraud, will be reporting directly back to Barr's office, and that's
so reporting back to Barr, not going through Ray,
exactly.
who I don't trust.
Exactly. And I've been told that Ray has been cut out of this process as it goes.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's fascinating. Now, what do you sorry, did you have something more to say?
And also on that, so the criminal processes are going to be going forward, but that's really unconnected to the election process, which is a separate process, because the criminal process will be going on probably long after, even after the president is inaugurated for his second term. And so that's something that's but what's important about the criminal process is that it functions almost as an amicus curiae for the Supreme Court. It functions almost as a friend of the court opinion. Where the court will be influenced by that. They will take judicial notice of it, or even informal notice of it, and it will help them to move in their own decisions as we go forward on this. Now, also on that score, I have been told that the clerks of the court of the Supreme Court of the United States have been taking notice of the orders from Alito that have been disobeyed and disregarded. And especially in Philadelphia, especially in Pennsylvania and other jurisdictions as well, because those orders that have been put out to Pennsylvania should also be binding and influential on the other 5 jurisdictions that have been committing these huge amounts of fraud.
This massive fraud. Yeah.
Right.
And okay, so
but what that does is that it puts the Supreme Court into what we call survival mode, where they are finding out that their very existence as an institution is being threatened. And what that will produce is 9-0 votes in the Supreme Court.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna go there, because I asked this question yesterday of another guest I have. Is it going to be 5-4, where they're going to say, "Oh, it's a divided Supreme Court," or is it going to be 7-2 or 9-0? Or so these guys, you're saying that these 9 justices, 2 of which I think were illegally appointed by the illegal President Barack Obama, but they're going to come together and say, "We've got to protect our phony baloney jobs, gentlemen." What's that from? A Mel Brooks movie? And remember, I forget what movie it was. It was I think it was Blazing Saddles. "We've got to protect our phony baloney jobs, gentlemen." That's interesting. That's a development I did not expect. See, this is what you get with John DeSouza, folks. This is what you get: is you get insider stuff that you didn't even know was out there.
Because they have to, because they're going to be put in a position where they have to vote for national unity and coming together. And I believe that it was a similar situation in 2000 with when Gore tried to steal it from Bush.
Bush v. Gore. The decision on whether or not the recounts were unconstitutional was 7-2. The vote on the remedy was 5-4. Like, the remedy was, let's stop the count and end it right now and say whatever you've got now is the total, which made Bush the president. But they always talk about, an extremely divided Supreme Court of 5-4. But in fact, it was 7-2, including, I think, Ruth Bader Ginsburg voted with the majority saying that these recounts are unconstitutional the way they're being done.
There you go. Yeah. So I think that we're going to be looking at similar stuff where some of the phony baloney justices are going to have to vote with the majority, with the conservative majority.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is if in fact, a lot of people think Trump's been playing a game with all this, that this is the ultimate chess match, that he let a lot of this happen to catch them in a crime, because you can't prosecute pre-crime, right? They actually have to commit the crime of fraud. And that's why people have been watching Joe Biden's exact language on claiming victory, because I understand that if he claims victory using certain words, that then he becomes part of the fraud prosecution, because especially if they have emails that he knew that there was a fraud operation that was going on, which I believe that they do. Yeah. So is that
or statements from him clearly saying we have organized the greatest voter fraud organization in American political history?
Gee, do you think maybe? So in that case, if they have the leverage, if Trump were to go to these justices and say, "Look, Justice Kagan, Justice Sotomayor, I know that you're Democrat hacks, that you're liberals, you're not gonna vote according to the Constitution, whatever, but I will let you stay on the Supreme Court after I win and not expose everything I know about the fact that Barack Obama was not an eligible candidate to be an American, as an American president, and let you stay on the court if you vote the correct way on this issue." Do you think that's a possibility that's going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think that's very likely that it is. It very much is. And then something extraordinary has to be done with Judge Roberts, who's
compromised,
who's compromised and is probably being blackmailed from both sides. And so they're going to have to do something extraordinary.
Well, let me ask you about Roberts. You're a former FBI guy. You still got some friends back there. Mm-hmm. There are, on the Epstein flight logs, there is a John Roberts on the logs that have been released. Not all of them have been released. The question is that Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice John Roberts, is that him, or is that the John Roberts who is the Fox News reporter that covers the White House? Do you have any knowledge about that you can share with us?
No, I don't. I don't have particular knowledge on that. However, there is a lot of intel on Supreme Court justice being compromised through his adoption of children in the past, which was done for perhaps nefarious purposes and through extra legal means as well. And so there's a lot of intel on that being the source of blackmail for him in particular.
Okay. Wow, that's deep and disturbing and stuff we didn't know. So let me ask you this. You talk to guys at the FBI who are still there, and what is the level of trust and or contempt for current Director Wray?
Oh, I would say it's extremely high. I would say about 99%.
The contempt, people, you mean?
The contempt level, right. From street agents, from people in the field who do the actual investigations for this leadership, and they just can't believe that he's still there. Except as I tell them, Trump, as I constantly remind them, Trump keeps a lot of people from the swamp in positions of power so that he can collect intel on who's giving them their real orders, because they don't work for you.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Yeah,
exactly.
Do you hear any? There's rumors that Ray's going to be fired here during this period. Mike Esper was just fired yesterday. He's a swamp rat. Attorney General Bara, I'll ask you about in a minute. But do you hear any truth? Do you think there's any truth to the rumors that Ray will be gone in the next few days before this ever, or since they're bypassing him, are they just going to let him stay in that position until the second term when people normally leave after when the second term starts anyway? So
yeah, I think they are, but right now Trump is doing what's called shaking the wire when you have surveillance up on somebody, on a criminal figurehead, who's what you do is you put extreme pressure on them through catastrophic events, and then you see what results as far as communications, who talks to him, and who he talks to get the next orders, the next commands on what to do. And so it's very likely that right now Trump is shaking the wire on Ray himself and collecting a lot of terrific intel on moves that are going to be going forward in the very near future. So I doubt that he would fire Ray before the re-election
because he's still useful to him.
Yes, and he's still useful in this terrific intel that he's getting on the people who are directly contacting Ray to give him his next orders in view of the crazy stuff that's going on at this point. And they are not going to be happy when Ray tells them that basically everyone's working around him. They're working around him at this point. He's pretty much isolated. So he's going to be trying to keep that, because Soros will be livid. When he hears about that. So they're going to try to. He's going to try to keep that quiet as long as he can.
Yeah. What about the rumor that Sidney Powell may be appointed as FBI director, or Michael Flynn? Do you hear anything along those lines? And would those names be welcome there at the FBI because they're going to have to come in and do a rectal exam on the FBI too and clear out a lot of the bad stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people, I hope that people will see my new movie, 1,000 Pieces.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, 1,000 Pieces. Yeah,
because it speaks directly to that. It speaks directly to the overhaul that is, and we just need a wrecking ball and a rebuilding of our entire intelligence structure, CIA, FBI, and many others. I think we have like 32 intelligence agencies in the United States government. That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. And so we need a complete overhaul of that. And my new movie, the 1,000 Pieces, speaks to all of that. It's a collection of all of us, of many of us former intelligence agents who have worked throughout the security structure,
Mm-hmm.
and including President General Flynn's brother, who is all throughout this movie as well, explaining to us everything that happened with General Flynn and his family.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly poignant. I mean, it's amazing, amazing stuff. So yes, I do believe, Mike, to answer your question, that we're going to have either a complete knocking down and rebuilding of the FBI, and we will have to have someone radical to preside over that, like a Sidney Powell or a General Flynn.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be vital to be done, and that's going to be the next challenge, that the next immediate challenge that the president's going to be facing after he's reelected. Yeah, it's going to be, because if not, then the cabal is going to use the final weaponized elements of the intelligence structure against President Trump in whatever form they can, and that's going to be coming up after he's reelected. So he needs to face that challenge right out as soon as he's reelected.
Right. People like Hannity are always saying, "Oh, 99% of the guys at the FBI are, rock rib patriots, and they don't like this." And I'm saying, well, then where are they? Right? I mean, I got you, but you're not in the FBI anymore. You're retired. So you notice I'm doing the harmonica thing that Donald Trump does.
Yeah.
I just realized So
Mike Bara, he's a great guy. He's a great guy.
All right, stop it. Yeah. We will make America great again. It's going to be huge. MAGA, right? Okay. So is that true? Or is there is 40% of the FBI corrupt? Because here's the thing. I've often said, I felt like the DOJ and the FBI are so corrupt, they can't be saved. They have to be wiped from the map, and we have to start something new, unify with the federal marshals, start a new thing. Because, the FBI is kind of extra constitutional anyway. And start from scratch if the corruption is that bad. But if you're saying the corruption is not that bad, then
no, the corruption, no, because both are true. The corruption is absolute, but it's in the leadership. It's in the leadership. It's on the 7th floor of that hated building.
Right.
It's over there. It's completely in the leadership. This is exactly why President Trump did a little bit of Houdini trick the other day, where he attacked the entire SES, the Senior Executive Service, and he actually created a new schedule where he can take the entire senior executive service, and he could actually take them over to a new schedule and fire all of them. And that's exactly what he may need to do, because the SES is the entire executive management of not just the FBI, but of all the organization, of many of these intelligence organizations. And he needs to grab the entire SES schedule and just move them over to this other schedule where he can absolutely get rid of all of them. Because it is true, Mike, the 99% of these organizations are the street level agents, the people in the field who are doing these investigations, who are doing the work. And it's just this, I don't know, it's like the 1%, the 5% at the top in management,
right,
who are completely and utterly corrupted. That's what we need to go after.
That's the cancer that's got to be cut out. You do that, and you can save the FBI, is what you're saying. So,
absolutely, yes.
Well,
but that leadership is so ensconced, it's so embedded throughout the organization that we may need that absolute, what you said, that demolition of the entire organization, because that corruption of that leadership is so ensconced throughout the organization that we may need a complete demolition and rebuilding.
Well, if the president asked me, I would nominate you to be FBI director. If I had a choice, I would nominate John DeSouza to be director of the FBI.
Thank you.
And I would be
Mike.
director
of put you at head of DOJ.
I would be the civilian director of the Space Force, and you could be the FBI director. So it's okay. We're gonna look with this streaming. We occasionally have interruptions, so don't worry about it. If you freeze or I freeze, just wait, it'll come back. It does happen, especially this time of day. Things get really busy, so don't sweat it. Okay, now another thing I want to ask you about, and this is great because I love this free flowing discussion, and it just leads from one thing to another to another. Do you know much of anything about the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the CISA, which is this new agency that the president created in 2017 to secure critical infrastructure, and voting is part of that? Do you know anything about that agency, and are they going to have a role to play in the outcome of this election?
What I do know is that yes, they probably will have a critical role to play in the outcome of the election. And the reason is this: whenever the president creates these new organizations or appoints these new leaders, just as he to these positions, the primary reason is usually because of access. So he can have legal access to all kinds of data that was shut off and compartmentalized from main justice in the past, and
Okay.
so that's one of the main reasons that he created this agency, the cybersecurity agency that you're talking about, so that when he appoints the executive in charge of that agency, they will have complete access and transparency to all of these data points that have been isolated from us in the past. That's the main thing.
Okay, so what do you think about these rumors that the CISA did something with the ballots to be able to identify the fake mail-in ballots from the real mail-in ballots? You think that's true?
I keep hearing about the watermarks and how the watermarks are going to be used and so forth. And there's a chance it is true. There's a chance that it is. We don't know at this point yet, because we need to see that rumor from many separate independent sources. And I have not seen that yet. I've only seen it from like one or two sources.
Yeah, and again, I don't know. A lot of these people show up and they're like, "Oh, this is an intelligence expert," and I'm like, "I've never heard of the guy before. I don't know."
Right.
Don't know who he is. By the way, the PayPal is paypal.me/Mike Bara, and Venmo is at Mike-Bara. You can
send your money.
I need the contributions. I appreciate them very much.
Here's what I wanted to say on that topic right there. I want to explain to your audience why Mike Bara is the greatest personality on television and on YouTube today.
There we go.
It is not because he's an engineer or because of his everyday skills that he has. It is because Mike Bara is the greatest investigator that I know. It's not because he can churn out data. It's because he knows where to look for data and how to put it together in a way that other people just can't do. That's why. So in other words, Bara is the great personality because he's a great investigator. He knows what clues to connect, and he can show you where to look for data that you would never imagine. And that's what makes Bara such a great personality. If television was a correct process, an equitable process, Bara would be on every television show. That's just the way it is.
That is high praise coming from such a skilled, suave, debonair dude like you, who's so great on television himself. Thanks. I appreciate that. And that is true. It's like I've kind of gotten to where I am by being able to figure out how things fit into a pattern and asking the right questions. Right. And I don't know. Do you think I would have made a decent FBI agent at some level? Or
absolutely, it would have been a fantastic one, and then you would have become disgruntled, and because of the leadership, and you probably would have set fire to one of the offices.
I have a little bit of
and left.
Volatile temper.
And left.
Sold. Yeah.
and left at that point. You know.
Oh, by the way, do you know when I was 17 and I came to Washington, D.C., I got stoned in the alley between the FBI headquarters and whatever the next building was? I smoked some weed. We came out. Maybe it was across the street, but it was FBI headquarters. Went into an alley, did some weed, wow. And like, oh, wow. Yeah, that was pretty hilarious. That was my first Washington, D.C. experience. Okay, so let's go back to the voter fraud. And if you can tell us about things that you've heard, great. If not, just what your observation is. It seems to me that this computer software, Dominion, which was financed by the Clinton Foundation, Dianne Feinstein's husband, and Nancy Pelosi's husband, I believe, they're the ones who put together this software that is used in basically all the states that are having problems, was used, as we understand it, to flip votes from Trump to Biden. And these were votes mostly in blue counties in these various states. This was the plan, because Trump actually shocked them. The scenario is that they were shocked at the amount of support Trump got in Democrat districts.
Right.
And he got such overwhelming support that they had to kick in this software patch that started flipping his votes from in the blue districts. What do you think the chances are that this software package, which was created by the Democrats, has been used in this way to commit fraud? And what do you think the chances are anybody is going to get busted for it?
I think it's absolutely 100% that they are going to get busted for it.
Okay.
That they are being looked at. I think we have a lot of in these states. I think there's 6 of these states that are involved, right. And I think the Secretary of State in those states, the one that's in charge of the election, I forget which secretary it is, but I think
you've got Nevada. You've got Arizona, although that's controlled by Republicans. You've got Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and I'm not sure about North Carolina, but they all use this software. And there have been issues in all the states that are controlled by Democrats, except for Arizona is the one Republican state. But I haven't heard a lot about the cyber cheating there. But those are the main states.
All of these election officials in these states are sweating bullets right now. They are just sweating bullets because they know that what they did and what they were involved in is going to ultimately come back to them. And I believe it's I'm trying to think who is the elections clerk.
Well, I think you might be referring to Pennsylvania, where the governor and the Secretary of State have said, Donald Trump is not going to win this state, and they're going to basically saying they're going to fix it no matter how they have to do it, and they're going to make sure he doesn't win the state. And it's kind of shaky now because I think they've been caught red-handed. So
right. But what I'm saying is that the Secretary of State in each of these states is the ultimate election czar, if you want to say it that way. And so each of them are accountable once this fraud is uncovered at so many different levels, and it's ultimately going to come back on their heads. And so they are really in a terrible situation right now, where they may just agitate for Trump to win his elections by a certain amount, just by a small percentage, and then certify the results or try to certify the results immediately so that they can stop these investigations against them.
Right. So they're going to have to come to the point where they feel the hot breath on their back of their neck, right? And they know the gun's pointed at their head, and they know that if they certify election results that they know are fraudulent, if they think that the feds have their emails or their phone communications, which I understand NSA has got everything, and that they're going to go to jail if they certify this vote, that rather than cut any deals or anything else, they're just, once Trump is in the lead, they're just going to certify the results. That's what you think might go on?
There's a very good chance of that, and they may try to make deals in order to do that. They may reach out to the FBI and to others to say, hey, I'm going to disobey the Democratic Party. I'm going to certify these results right now, but you guys have to drop all these.
Like, you can't tell people about my child pornography habit and the little kids I've raped and all that stuff, right? And I'll serve out the rest of my term and then I'll retire. That's what they're going to try to do.
They are going to have to try to do that, because I don't think they really have a choice. For instance, I have Brian Kemp is the secretary. He's the Secretary of State of Georgia.
Yes,
or he's the governor, maybe.
Governor, yeah.
But he just came out and said only legally cast ballots will be allowed, and only legally cast ballots will have a factor in this election. But that brings up the question. A lot of people in Georgia say that governor himself was actually elected with fraudulent votes. So that may be the reason why he's giving out a signal that he will be certifying the results in Donald Trump's favor. So you see, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
Right. Yeah, he is the governor. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. The
key states, from my perspective, and I don't know if I'm going into a slideshow at this point. Go ahead, John. Did you have something else?
We are at the point in the movie where there's I should say we're at the point in the investigation that where the investigator has this sudden realization, this sudden download, where they're understanding why the criminals did A, B, C, D, which made no sense at the time. Made no sense. But now we understand how all these pieces fit together. Like, for instance, why did the Democratic Party put in Joe Biden as the candidate who was a deeply unpopular figure, even in the Democratic Party? I mean, he was called 1% Joe because every time he ran for president every 4 years, and he never got above 1%.
He got 1%. Yeah.
He was deeply unpopular, even among Democrats. And they actually stole the election again from Bernie, the nomination from Bernie again, and gave it to Joe Biden, who was the only character on the Democratic side that had no popularity at all. And yet they put him in. And then they had him select the second most unpopular candidate, which was Kamala Harris, on that as his VP. Again, that made no sense.
Yeah.
That made no sense.
Yeah.
And then a third point in the investigation, then Biden stopped campaigning completely. Stopped campaigning. They had no field campaign at all throughout the entire country. Mm-hmm. And there was none. And that didn't make sense. Well, now suddenly it all comes together, and you have that flash moment where the whole investigation now makes sense, because what you have the cabal wanted to demonstrate their power. They wanted to demonstrate their power to have the election won on behalf of this deeply, deeply unpopular candidate and his co-candidate, and they wanted to demonstrate how they could do this, they had the power to do this and get it done, and get it done under incredibly difficult circumstances against an incredibly popular president. And they do these things also as a warning to other nations, to show them, hey, we could do this in your country too. And that's exactly what they did.
It seems, though, at this point that they've been caught red-handed. They've been caught red-handed with the mail-in ballots being trucked in. I mean, if they've got a lot of sworn affidavits, and we've all seen a bunch of them. You know, we've got video evidence on the screen of votes being flipped, exact numbers being flipped from Trump to Biden, which is probably coming from the software. They've got the software, the software program that the people are digging into. They've got the patches and things. So they've got all this evidence. The issue for me is when does this, it's slowly seeping into the thought processes, right? I mean, all the normies, all the dumb people who think Joe Biden's a decent human being, they're now probably going, somebody uncalled Pennsylvania for Biden? What's going on? And I mean, it's going to slowly dawn on them. So how long do you think this process is going to take? Do you think this is going to be a slow, piece by piece, bit by bit thing? How long do you think it's going to take before it becomes obvious that Trump is the winner of the election?
Well, if you're talking, there's a chance that could happen pretty quickly with the counts that are going on.
Right.
Counts that are going on right now. But the rest of the process is going to take longer because we can't stop when Trump is obviously projected to be the winner. We can't stop. We have to uncover all of the fraud,
right?
Which also means we have to look at California as well.
Yeah, and I was going to say, what do you think the odds are that as it becomes clear that Trump is the projected winner, then as maybe the Supreme Court will make a decision. Oh, those 140,000 Biden ballots that showed up at 4 a.m. in Pennsylvania, those are all thrown out. Guess what? That makes Donald Trump the winner right there, and nothing else required. Donald Trump is certified. So once it becomes clear that they've done that, do you think the Democrats push back and demand recounts and things like that, with the idea thinking that maybe they can fudge the recount again? Because if they do that, then basically a forensic audit of every state, I think, would show that Trump probably won 35, 40 states, including, like you said, California. Exactly. And it will completely expose the fraud. So do you think that they will take the bait on that?
No, I think they will go to the next part of their plan, which is going to be, which they have already announced kind of here and there, because evil people always feel they need to announce their plans ahead of time.
It's a religious thing, John. They have to tell it some rule that Moloch set out, 1,000 centuries ago, that you have to tell them the truth in some way, shape, or form. It's the same thing I encountered with Mars and NASA. They didn't have to admit the face on Mars was artificial. They just kept showing you the pictures that proved that it was without comment. But then they could turn around to Moloch or whoever and say, "Hey, we showed them. They just didn't believe us." Right? Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And so they've got to go to their next phase of their plan, which is going to be rough. They are going after the Electoral College candidates, the Electoral College individuals, the electors who are going to be selected, and they're going to go after them with blackmail, with threats, with who knows what else, and they're going to try to get enough of them to defect, to again flip the outcome of the election. That's going to be the next phase. They're not going to bother with counter recounts and that stuff, because that will just take too much. They have to move to the next.
Right.
Yeah.
However,
they'll need to go to the next.
The president's already got all this evidence. He's already got everything, probably. And he could quite easily, expose all that information. If, in fact, he did that, he could probably bring down the entire Democratic Party. Any thoughts on why he might not do that if he had the opportunity?
I think he is trying to do it. He's trying to expose how corrupt they are. He's trying to stretch out the snake before you chop its head off. And he's trying to show all of that. But he just believes in exposing a tremendous amount of data on corruption before he actually moves on them. And so that throws it back to Barr and to what is Barr doing? What is Barr doing at this point? And what's going on with Durham and other state U.S. attorneys that are working on corruption of the Democratic Party. When are they going to move? When are these arrests going to move forward? But obviously, they're getting great data on all the CCP connections. You see, especially the CCP connections with the Democratic Party, and they're continuing to collect that because that has international implications. Well, the moves that are going to go forward against.
The thing about that is, if you bring out that the CCP was behind a lot of these fraud operations, I mean, you could end up in a shooting war with the Chinese. So do you think they're going to back off telling the people the truth about that for a while, or no?
No. I think that's going to continue to come out because you could have said that when Trump exposed all the COVID-19 information from the CCP, everything that they did. It's the China virus. It's the China virus. They created it. They spread it. They sent it to the United States, and all of that. We're already in an existential struggle with the CCP. That cat is already out of the bag. So that's already happening, and that's one of the reasons. That is one of the reasons why the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, tried to march over it. And I made this prediction. I predicted that the CCP would invade the United States in a very short order, and that's exactly what they tried to do with the Biden administration. They tried to march right into the White House with their candidate that they bought and paid for and blackmailed as well, which is the Joe Biden administration. And that was their invasion of the United States. Because why would you send soldiers and shoot guns if you could do it in this much easier way?
I remember watching when I was a kid, watching the 1950s version of the War of the Worlds. Right, and where the Martians come in and they're the heat ray and the photon torpedoes that disintegrate people, and they're destroying Los Angeles. And my mom says, "Well, if they're destroying all the buildings, where are they going to live?" And it's kind of the same thing with the Chinese, right? It's the analogy you just made is, try to win the war, but keep the infrastructure. In place. So this is their attempt to do that. By the way, so Denise Salim wants to know, is this why Nancy Pelosi spent so much on the post office to pay people off for fraud? What do you think about that, John? Nancy Pelosi spent a whole bunch of money on the post office. Was she paying, was that a fraud operation, paying people off?
Absolutely. I do believe everything Nancy Pelosi has done has been a fraud operation and a payoff operation. Just look at how she refused to give stimulus to the American people unless Trump agreed to these crazy giant payments to the cities that had been doing rioting and allowing the rioting to destroy their own cities. Committing treason, basically, is what these mayors did in all of their cities on behalf of the CCP, which paid them to do this. And Nancy Pelosi wanted to reward them for that, for obeying their CCP masters and their globalist masters. And so, all of this has been a payoff situation. And as a matter of fact, now we also understand in the Joe Biden campaign what happened to all the money. What happened to all the money? Where did it go? Because Joe Biden had no field campaign. He had no field campaign. He had no people, and people were wondering.
They spent the money.
And yet he had. Exactly. Now we know he spent all that money on bribery out to all of these divisions where the election was going on, and all of the ballot workers had to be paid because they were not working for you. They were not working for the state of Pennsylvania. They were not working for whatever the other states are. They were working for that money that they got paid from the Joe Biden campaign, which had a lot of money that just nobody knows where it went.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Well, it's kind of like, to me, that's also kind of like the the Harvard endowment, which we know paid for a lot of the research for the Wuhan virus, for the Chi-Com virus.
Right.
Exactly. time for a forensic audit on the where did they get $40 billion? Where did Harvard get $40 billion? Where did it come from? And what's it been used for? And what's it been spent on? These are questions that inquiring minds want to know. Okay, so Dave Bara, I don't know who the hell he is.
Oh, Dave Bara, I love him. He's awesome.
Is he awesome? What about Biden conceding to get out of being prosecuted? That was a rumor that started floating around yesterday, which is that Biden, at some point when it appears Trump will win, will be told, we got this on you, we got this, you're a child molester, you're a rapist, you murdered your first wife, whatever they have. So you either concede or we're going to prosecute you on all this. What do you think the chances are of that?
I think that I think Trump is too great a chess master to do something so direct, so I don't know, pedestrian. I mean, I don't see Trump going along with something like that. But there are times when I believe that the Alliance of Nations, the White Hat Alliance, will do things like what Dave just mentioned, where they will do it without Trump's consent, without his involvement, and they could do something like that, like exactly what you said, and just tell Biden, yeah, you got to concede, and we won't prosecute you. Okay,
so they may say, President Trump, we know you want to go after this guy and prove to the world what a creep he is, but we're going to sort of circumvent you on that. That's interesting.
It could happen. It could happen. I think it's happened in other instances too, where really tough things were done. With our special forces, especially in Iran, where I think that I don't think that Trump would have gone along with those things, and those things are still top secret to this day. But there were huge, massive consequences, and sometimes I believe that the Alliance of Nations may have gone ahead and done those things without Trump being directly responsible for those sorts of things.
Okay, Denise, the last time I saw the two of you together, someone was jumping out of a high-rise building on Mike's phone. Oh, that was probably the disclosure, right? Some weird thing. I remember that. Some suicide guy or something in New York City happened. That's right. I remember that.
Oh, wow.
Denise, I didn't know I met you there, Denise. Sorry.
I think we have a picture with her, Mike.
Do we? Oh, Denise, I should look that up. Yeah, the yuan fell when it looked like Trump was winning. That is interesting, and I think we should maybe watch the yuan to see which way things are trending. Dave says, tell John Dave Bara thinks he's awesome. So my brother,
thank you, Dave. I think you're awesome too, mostly because of your genetics, though.
Yeah, he's pretty much my identical twin. Okay, so again, it's been about an hour. I don't want to keep you too long. Thank you for sharing this hour with us. And if you want to go, we could do this. But I kind of want to get.
I want to stay forever.
You want to stay for a while? Okay. So guys, if you have questions for John, start rolling them up in chat. We got 400 people in the chat right now. Let's roll them up and get those questions. I want to ask you one last question. When is the time frame? What do you see right now from where you're sitting as the time frame for when it becomes obvious or it's pushed out to the public that Donald Trump in fact won the election, not Joe Biden? 2 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yes, I was just about to say I think we're looking at 2 weeks here. I think we're looking at 2 weeks because it has to be within this time frame of December 15th when the electors they start looking at the electors and looking at getting them seated and all that sort of thing. So we're gonna this has to be determined within I guess this week and next as far as just establishing that Trump is definitely the winner of this election.
Okay, and that's interesting because that's exactly what I've gotten from two other sources. That this will be out there within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
and there'll be pushback. And like you say, they'll go after the electors. They'll fail to do that, I would assume, because I'm sure the president is going to make sure the electors are well protected from threats of violence and things like that. And then once the Electoral College votes, I think the next step then is riots. Don't you think that? And is that what you expect to happen next?
I don't think we can dismiss the step of attacking the electors so easily, Mike. I think that is going to be wild because they don't need to do widespread violence. They just need to go into this plan that they have of doing surgical violence, surgical threats, and they have the resources to do that. Mm-hmm. I don't see, and yeah, it may come down to what you said. President Trump may have to protect every single one of the electors with direct, some kind of like what he did for Sean Hannity, where he sent people from Delta Force to just protect the guy 24/7, and we may come to that situation with the electors too. Because
sounds like a job for the FBI is what I was going to say, but you're saying it's a job for the Delta Force. Wow.
I think you may need both because that is going to be crazy, incredible. It's something unprecedented right. for a group like the Democratic Party, a national group that is just so uncaring about illegalities that they're going to actually go after one of the foundations of our democratic system, our democratic republic, and just attack the entire Electoral College, both in the press, both with information and with physical and directly physical. So that's going to be a war unto itself.
Right now, a lot of people always say things like, "Oh, the deep state's already done. They're toast. Their access to money's been cut off. They don't have any resources left." I don't really see it that way. No. I mean, I think that they're definitely beaten down from where they were 4 years ago. But I mean, you got to remember, after the Battle of the Bulge, Germany, lasted another 6 months. Yeah. So, what's your take on the state of the deep state and how much power they still have to fight back?
People don't understand the kind of power that the deep state has.
Sorry, I had to do my Darth Vader there. Yeah,
just with a single institution that it owns, like let's say mainstream media. I mean, mainstream media. Just the fact that they own the mainstream media worldwide. People don't understand the kind of power that gives them, or big pharma. Let's say big pharma, and I try to explain it to people this way. Let's say if next month, let's say if after re-election, Donald Trump declares free energy, and him and Putin put out free energy to the entire world, free energy completely without cost, and well, what do you think the deep state? Do you think the deep state and the deep state would just roll over and just say, "Okay, yeah, sure, that's fine"? No, they would not. They would fight tooth and nail. The mainstream media would warn people. They would tell people, if you use this kind of energy, you may think it's not costing you anything, but it's going to cost you greatly in the future.
Blow your house up. I mean,
it'll blow your house up.
Yeah, there's
destroy your appliances. It'll give you cancer. It'll give you cancer. I mean, they will, and not just that, but they'll have other institutions that will pile on to try to prevent people from. They'll have state governors that the CCP will pay to declare a ban on free energy because it creates a clear present danger to their citizens in that state, which will be, of course, California and the others, and New York and things like that. See, so this is why it's you have to explain this kind of thing to these fantasy thinkers, these fantasy people who are.
But don't you think that the mainstream media is really taking a huge battering for this? I mean, for the way that they've reported this, Fox News, I think, is in big trouble. They fired Judge Janine today. They're going to probably have to fire other people who aren't going to submit to not reporting on the voter fraud. Don't you think that there is going to be a kind of a big shift here in the media powers power, because I mean, 70% of the people in America already don't believe a word in it. And that's what I try to tell people is I'm trying to say, hey, look, all these people you see chanting in the streets and everybody on Twitter and Facebook, they're not real. They're 30%. 30% of the people believe the media. 70% don't believe a fucking word they hear on CNN. So don't think that they're winning. Right. Don't feel like that. But don't you think that they're gonna suffer here soon?
Absolutely, they will suffer, and there's going to be a big power shift. You know, Fox now has completely fallen out into disrepute. They're not going to be listened to anymore. But what I tell people is that these are empty organizations. That's what they're becoming, and that's what they are. I mean, do people? And I ask people, do you know how much do you know why CNN is distributed to all the airports and all the gyms and all the public places where you have to be and you have to see CNN up on the screen? Do you know why that is? And the answer is because they don't charge anything to distribute that to those places. Well, then the next logical question from an investigator standpoint is well, why don't they charge anything? How could that be? And the answer is
their purpose is not to make money. Their purpose is to spread propaganda.
Exactly. Because they don't need ratings. They don't need money. They don't need it because they are globalist funded. They are funded by the globalists who happen to also be the central bankers who happen to also have all of your money. That's why CNN doesn't need a single audience member. It doesn't need anybody to follow. They don't need ratings. And so because they are just a propaganda channel for the globalist controllers. That's what they are. And so for that reason, you know, people have to understand it's the same reason that Pravda News continued to exist even in the last year of the Soviet Union, when nobody was watching Pravda News. Nobody watched Pravda News in 1989, 1988. In those years, in 1990, nobody watched Pravda News. And yet Pravda News was the biggest network throughout the Soviet Union, across 3 time zones, and across millions and millions, available to millions and millions of people. They no longer charged for Pravda newspapers, and they no longer charged anything for Pravda News, but yet it was the biggest institution in the Soviet Union. And that's the same situation where we're getting to now with mainstream news, where they just exist as empty institutions with no audience, no nothing. And yet it's a very strong illusion. It's a very strong illusion because when you go to your gym, there they are on the screen. When you go to the airport, there they are on all the screens. I'm
stunned at the number of friends I have on Facebook who think that the media decides who the president is. You know, I'm just like, are you people nuts? This is just media organizations who we know are corrupt and liars and all Democrats. And it's like, but people accept that. Some people accept that as truth. And I think they're going to have a really harsh wake-up call here in the next couple of weeks. Let's get another question. And Josh I asks, John, do you think the crimes against humanity, probably stuff on the Wiener laptop, will be revealed next year, the frazzle drip, the real truth? Do you think that after we get through this conflict period, that this stuff is going to start to come out? I mean, it's really it's a guess. You know, what do you think? Yes, no? Are they going to finally tell us the truth?
You know, I don't. When you go to the level of frazzle drip, I think there's a chance that stuff will never be publicly revealed. Because these people have so many crimes. I mean, just look at Hillary alone. How many crimes that she got stacked up that she did in public? I mean, just the fact of her getting a server in her home, a computer server where she stacked in all the top secret information about all of our organizations, and she just left it there. With password for the Chinese government, the Russian government to just come and get all that information.
Yeah, a bunch of our spies got murdered because of it too. Exactly. Yeah. And it was all sale. She just sold, all the information.
Exactly. And Joe Biden was involved in a similar operation with the Chinese, where he revealed all of the Chinese agents that we have in China, American agents, I should say, and they were subsequently killed as well. And that's that sort of thing. That sort of thing is plenty. It's plenty to get these situations resolved against these deep state actors, and it's just a question of timing.
What do you think about martial law? Do you think that's a reasonable possibility? Is the military going to have to step in with the dissension and riots? Do you think that that's really going to be something that's going to happen over the next, whether it starts in the next 2 weeks or whether it lasts, 10 days or whatever the thing's going to be? What do you think about it?
I think that President may actually have to declare insurrection in order to protect the electors, as we're coming up here in this time, because I think that is a direct attack on our American institutions. It would be as if you had a huge paramilitary group declare that they're going to attack the Supreme Court of the United States. You see, your local authorities are not going to be enough to protect in a situation like that. So yeah, I think that the people should look to the president possibly triggering the insurrection statutes for what people call martial law for this next step when they're going to be attacking the Electoral College.
Okay. D. Law would like to know if you think there will be disclosure, and by that I think she means some alien stuff with President Trump and under President Trump in the next term, in the second term.
I actually, well, it's a little difficult to say because President Trump is actually right now, he has, as Mike Bara knows, President Trump has several secret weapons that he is using, and he has available to him that are very similar to extraterrestrial UFOs. And so, and he may also have other technology that he is using that has been possibly given to him directly or indirectly by extraterrestrial races. So for that reason, he will either be highly motivated to not have disclosure or maybe to have disclosure. We just don't know which way that would go.
Well, I hope that the president is a truth teller and that we're going to hear a lot of stuff. I realize some of the frazzle drip stuff can't be revealed, but I do think it needs to be one of these, well, we'll tell you in 25 years or we'll tell you in 50 years all the things that Hillary Clinton really did. I think that's going to be important. And I think that, on the disclosure thing, I've been dealing with this bullshit for 30 years. And I don't think it's going to happen, at least not in the way that we think it's going to. I think that he's never going to sit, in the Oval Office with the white pane windows and the pictures of Melania behind him and stuff, and say, "Oh yeah, there's aliens. And they're really tough, and we're effed." I don't think he's going to say that. So I think, I do think we might get some other information. Triff Radu wants to know when was Trump enrolled into the White Hats plan? And somebody says you said something about after 9/11 in the documentary.
Yes, I believe it was.
Pieces? Is that in 1,000 pieces?
Yes, it may be that one, or it may be another one that I did.
Okay.
I've done several, but yes, I do believe it was shortly after 9/11 that the group came together. With military leaders from the United States and from other nations as well, to form the White Hat Coalition that ultimately went to Donald Trump and asked him to be the leader of the group. Interestingly, I don't think that the original thought was to have him be president of the United States. They wanted him to be sort of like a shadow president who would be the leader of this international group, who would give advice and consent to, let's say, the president of the United States and things like that. But as they went further in their plan, they realized that the only practical solution was for him to become president of the United States as well.
Yeah. That was the best way to best serve the plan. Do you have an estimate on the number of senators and congressmen who are bad actors or compromised? I'd say 90% of them, but that's my guess. What do you think?
I think that it's kind of impossible to say because, and yeah, it is a majority of them, but it's kind of impossible to say numbers because both sides always leave the doors open for people to come on over and to come help the right side and to convert and to come over. Like the most famous one that we know of is Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, of course.
Yeah, he seems to have turned from a wimp into a tiger.
Exactly, and so I think it works the other way too, where you have people who are with the White Hat Alliance who then go over to the dark side, and it happens quickly and happens very suddenly. I mean, look at the New York Post. The New York Post that was a mainstream player who was resolutely in favor of President Trump. And President Trump, they did everything for him. They did everything to help him and to work with him. And just recently, they went to the other side.
Yeah.
The other side was a terrible thing to see.
Yeah. Well, you jumped to the losing side, dude. Why can't the electors be anonymous, Jules, in Maryland? Because we live in a constitutional republic and everything has to be public. You do not have secret ballots, secret oaths, and secret societies, as President Kennedy so eloquently put it in the president and the press speech when he first took office. So everybody has to be known. That's the way the process works. Otherwise,
right.
The country.
The very word conspiracy is anathema to a free and open society.
No, not conspiracy. It was the very word secrecy. Secrecy.
That's it.
The very word secrecy is anathema to. I want some chowder. Can you get me some chowder, Bobby? Can you get Maryland to get me some chowder? Anyway, I love President Kennedy now. I didn't.
Sorry about this, folks. Sorry about this.
Yeah, sorry. We went there. You know, to go last year, as I did about a year ago now, to Dallas to see Dealey Plaza and to see where J.D. Tippit stood on the grassy knoll and shot the president in the head. It's a very emotional experience. It really sucked. And yet at the same time, I think we have a chance to sort of renew the country in the vision of what President Kennedy had.
Exactly. I just feel, especially when I saw Trump in person recently, I just saw that man and I saw a spirit on him that was just indescribable. And I really think that the Trump presidency is a continuance of JFK's presidency.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's JFK's second term, basically. The first term.
I see that.
Second. Yeah.
And I feel it as well. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. I see that there's some back and forth going on in the chat about high school girls types of issues that have been going on out there in public. Can't control any of that stuff. Let's see if we have any other questions here.
And Trump does have to be given additional terms. I mean, he can't for what he's gone through.
You know, Dave Bara, whoever he is, had a thought, and he said, "What if there's other ways you can look at this too?" Trump could say, "Well, okay, yeah, you won the election, but you're the president of the corporation." Of a corporate America, which has been dissolved now, and we have now a republic, and I'm still the president of the republic, and we don't have fake elections in the republic. There's that thing possibility, and also, you know, if the old corporate constitution is thrown out, then there's no 22nd Amendment, and Trump could theoretically run for a third term. Although at his age, I'm not sure he would want to, but nor would it be necessary. But we'll see. I think it's going to take longer than 4 more years to eradicate the deep state from the face of the earth, though.
Yeah, and that's why he will have. I think that plan of that you just said is very likely. I think once he dissolves the old corporate structure, then he can be president of the new republic as well. So there's your third term right there, and I think he will do it.
What do you think about? Let me ask you this: is John F. Kennedy Jr. still alive?
Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that. That's like, why don't you just ask me about 9/11 then?
The thing is, I have a friend, the Gunner's wife, who has a great YouTube channel. It's wonderful. She does lip readings, and she's looked at these rallies where Vincent Fusco was, and she's looked at all the footage leading up to it. And there's this woman who looks exactly like Carolyn Bessette Kennedy you would expect her to look at 59 years old.
It was her or a clone. It was her.
It was definitely her or a clone. And she's sitting with Vincent Fusco, who one of the Vincent Fuscos, I think, is the spitting image of JFK Jr. in a disguise. And at one point, she's sitting there and she's talking to a guy who I would say has the bearing of a Secret Service agent or an FBI agent. He's young, but he clearly has the bearing of a guy like that. And he's talking to her, seated right over the shoulder of the president.
I remember
and the lip reading is, to the effect that, Junior is going to be playing Vincent Fusco in Florida and Ohio. I mean, this dialogue is like, if there's Secret Service protection for these two people, Carolyn and Vincent, Carolyn and John, whoever it is, doesn't that imply that he is somebody important? He's not just some Italian dude from Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Yes, he is. And it does seem to me that if that is not JFK, then it's very likely it is a clone. I mean,
I've had some remote viewers say replacement is the word that I've heard, but that he did not die in the plane crash. So interesting.
Yeah,
let's
that's
go.
very likely. Also, yes.
Let's see if we have some more questions here. Yeah, I understand John F. Kennedy had issues with sex. He had a lot of girls. That's how Nancy Pelosi got her start in politics.
Oh, I remember that.
16 years old, she had sex with John F. Kennedy.
Oh yeah.
Have you not seen the picture? I've got a picture of them at some party. Yeah, together.
It's so obvious.
Yeah,
it's so obvious.
When she was 16, and she was actually kind of cute when she was 16. But I think Angie Dickinson, the famous actress, she had sex with JFK. She said it was the most exciting 23 seconds of her life. So yeah, he had issues, but I think on the big picture, on the non-character things, not having to do with sex, that I think he was trying to fight the deep state, and that's why they murdered him. So let's see if we have any final questions. Okay, here's a great one from Thundersteel 1988. What about George Soros and all this? What is Trump's plan there? Do you have any thoughts about that or speculation?
I mean, it just seems to me that at some point after all of this, after a lot of this damage is undone, we are going to have at some point, we'll have what do you call extradition teams? It's not called extradition. It's called black bag jobs.
They're extraction teams or
extraction jobs. Yeah, we'll have extraction jobs sent out. Teams. Yeah, sent out, and we'll grab the entire Bara. The entire George Soros organization, and bring them back to stand trial. Hopefully,
I thought you were my friend.
Not to well, if it's whatever's needed, and hopefully not to American soil. Hopefully to Guantanamo.
Yeah,
and they will be tried for their crimes at that point.
Yeah,
as international criminals.
All right. Well, thank you, John DeSouza, for joining us. 400 people in chat. That's awesome. Thank you guys for coming. I love this guy. I got to have him on more often, but it's hard to get a hold of him because he's a very important man and everybody wants a piece of him. So we are lucky here on Mike Bara Live for you guys to come on and have a chance to chat with John DeSouza. I think you're an awesome dude, John. I'm glad you're my friend, and I support you in everything. And I believe we will all be coming out into the light on this pretty soon. It's going to be fun in some ways. It's going to be dark and tough in other ways. But I just want to really thank you for joining me, and looking at what I've got over here in the chat, I think these people would love to have you back like every day. But maybe we can do it again sometime soon. I would really, really like that.
That'd be awesome, Mike. You are the best, El Bara. I love being on here, and I love your audience. It's great stuff, great time, and you are the greatest investigator that I know.
Well, you are the greatest investigator that I know, John DeSouza. I think between the two of us, we could nail anybody personally.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a gun. That
Yeah, I've got several.
All right. Yeah. All right. John DeSouza, thank you for being my guest here. You're a wonderful guy. 1,000 Pieces is the name of the documentary. There's the link. You can find it on YouTube. The books is a really long link, but it's back up in the chat. So go back up and look up his books. John, are your books on Amazon as well?
Yes, absolutely. They are on Amazon, and they are there.
So John DeSouza. John DeSouza.
Get Jeff Bezos a few more shekels.
Whatever. And get your books in his hands. His books are terrific. And you're a wonderful guy. And thank you so much for being on the show today, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the little bell so you get alerts. I'm going to do this pretty much every day except Sunday when I watch Seahawks football. So everybody subscribe. I gave you the PayPal and the Venmo if you want to contribute. I know, Denise, I just saw that you contributed something more. I appreciate that. I want to do a shout out to my patrons right now before I go off the air, especially Kelly Renee Lloyd Black. You are a wonderful person. Thank you so much. Everybody else is awesome too. Sharon Shook, Glenn Claddock, my old buddy from high school, and Boeing. Dude, we got a lot of history together. Todd Gibbs, Carol Dobson, Jeff Williams, you're a stand-up guy. Co-Creative Happenings, great guy. Chase Smith, Salvatore, great person. Chase Smith, Salvatore Aiello, Melissa Mahellanes, you sexy little beast, you, and Suzanne Esch. Thank you guys so much for all of your contributions. And John, again, thank you for being here. Oh, somebody wants the link to your books. It's super long, but I'm going to copy it again and put it in there. So it'll be in the chat. It's going to be hard to copy and paste, but copy and paste that there.
It's JohnTamaBooks.com. JohnTamaBooks.com. Or you can just Google my name. Google tells me that's the main, the number one way people find my books is just John DeSouza, Google, and you'll find everything.
Yeah, it's an amazing tool, Google. It really works. All right, buddy. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll do this again anytime you want to.
Awesome.
Hopefully you get some book sales and stuff out of it, and if you want to come back, I'll make a spot for you. No problem. Thanks.
JohnTamaBooks.com. Thanks, Mike. Thanks so much, Mike.
I'm sorry. What is it, John?
I was told to say JohnTamaBooks.com.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We'll see you tomorrow on whatever we're calling this report. Now, I'll be back with Casey Jones tomorrow to keep you up on the news and discussion. Thanks, John. Love you, man.
Awesome. Me too, man. Take care.